Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about something highly private, personal with you, and I feel this energy just taking over me and my being, so I had to come out of the house because it's really, and as well as I actually I'm on the monthly release time. I don't want to say it in any other way, and that probably also creates opportunity for me, a big opportunity for me to connect with that part of myself that it's releasing things, the past and past emotions and past things. And probably this is happening to you too now. I had it so far a beautiful day. I got some changes to my nails. I felt like to shape them actually in an almond shape, and I wanted them to be shorter as well. So back to the emotions, it's really I'm finally preparing myself, and this is actually already happening. There is no going back. I'm leaving the old me completely, and I'm leaving. I got emotional even though I didn't expect this to happen. I'm leaving a huge part of me that I was for so long. I got into this and played out this part of me and played out this persona for so long that even though I was majorly transforming from the inside out, this new person and this everything that it comes with this new person and new life is only emerging now after almost 4 decades of my life. You can imagine how many months, how many cycles, how many years I spent my life being someone I wasn't really. That it's literally alien to me right now, because as I'm looking back at this person, I don't even know who I'm talking about. But it's really interesting because this new person I still get to know of, and I'm really sure that you find yourself in this same position. But this is everything, but these experiences are profound experiences, These experiences used to be normal for those people who, once they resigned from their work and they went they got old and they retired, and then they need to say goodbye to someone they used to be for so long, right? It's something, it's actually exactly the same, but it's less common to experience it earlier. Humanity usually got to this point at the dawn of their lives. Yeah, not dawn. Yeah, dawn of their life, yeah. Because dusk is when right before sunset, right? And dawn is right before sunrise, and right, the dawn is before sunset. Yeah. I think I'm mixing it up. I just, I don't know now actually. Anyway, I really don't know at this point, and I actually don't care. So anyway, if you want, you can let me know in the comments or whatever. um, but this, I'm telling you, wow, these emotions are just now. I see a scroll passing. um, I see these. I'm looking at these emotions, and I can't relate to them anymore. It doesn't belong to me anymore. I know it, and still they are still happening, and they are still releasing, and they are still looking to be kind of yeah, I note them, acknowledge them. These emotions are kind of asking me to, okay, but look at me, Archangel Michael. Look at me one more time. One more, and the very last time. Just look at me once more before I go. And this also, it's really interesting because this also makes me really emotional, and I'm really sure that many of you are going through that. This is actually really happening. I actually, okay, my personal story starts right now. I've been together with my ex-partner for almost 5 years, and for it's approaching actually 7 years that I know this person. It's already 7 years that I know this person, and or even more. even more because it's almost 3 years that we separated. I mean, we broke up, not separated. We broke up, but because of the pandemic, and because of prior to the pandemic, just before the pandemic, I was trying to set up my business and make something out of it. And then the pandemic came and thrown off everything, and I wasn't able to leave. I mean, it would have been so much worse and so much harder to leave. Let's leave it that, because nothing is impossible, nothing is undoable. At that moment, at that point, I wasn't strong enough to start my business and then facing the whole no 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 no. I've been through so much trauma, so many challenging situations, lifelong, not just temporary situations. I'm not just talking about workplace, because I used to work my butt off. I used to work my socks off just to have something to call as mine, and I'm never going to go back to that miserable life. Thankfully, I chose not to go back to it even at that time, and I decided to keep thriving for the same goal as of I was striving towards setting up my business, but in a way that I can be of service. So I, instead of setting up my business and start a proper business, or go back to work or do something, I decided to be of service. So I did a kind of karma yoga. In spiritual communities, you would say she or he is doing karma yoga. So I was giving away my wisdom and spiritual, everything that it was happening to me on the spiritual awakening journey, and everything that I realized and received as gifts and skills and talents. I was pouring it into different communities, and I was of service of different communities around me, online and offline. So I was doing that, and of course, when this breakup happened, because my guides forced me, this story actually even goes back more to what was happening, because this is basically how you call it, how we label it, and how you truly understand it. It was a negative karmic relationship. It was helping me and supporting me in with regards to releasing and healing ancestral karma and toxic patterns in the topic of romantic relating to in one and of one another. And everybody goes through this moment of having this relationship that it turns out to be a false twin relationship. Now I was going through exactly that, but I was still really lucky to have this relationship, not literally with a narcissist, but only with a toxic empath. In categorizing, if you can even do that with a soul, if I want to really categorize an individual, that would be the category I would put this individual into. A toxic empath who has narcissistic traits, narcissistic behavior, trauma-based narcissistic response and reactions. But this person, is not a narcissist. But still, it was really painful and really challenging for both of us, actually, because we activated each other as Kundalini, and that was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening for me, and that pulled me into the rabbit hole, quite literally. I was intuitively guided to get to know all kinds of things available online, and my guides at that point stepped into my life full blown completely, and I started to understand the true spirituality on earth, the true spiritual awakening process and path that an individual, as per the Bible is talking about, or any other sacred scripture, would go about it, that would go through. And obviously it took me several years of spiritual awakening cycles, meaning each and every year when it was about to have this dark night of the soul experience, I put myself through that, little by little, releasing and purging everything out that was my old self and old conditioning subconsciously, and obviously going back, like how it would for everyone, they would go back little by little, layer by layer, with the most recent relational past experiences and conditioning, going back to that is reflected in your present partner, in your negative karmic relationship, about your parents, the first layer of ancestry, with the toxic patterns, with the South Node signification, and then going back grandparents, and then that grandparents, and so far going into ancient depths of these soul layers that needs to be shed, right? And after I can call it almost, yes, I was actually doing this cyclical cleansing and death and rebirth process for altogether for a decade now, and I'm ready to close out a really painful cycle of this. But within that cycle, the intense purging process and these dark night of the soul cycles, this extremely intense purging cycles, are happening to me since 2016, and that was the point when I also I've been forced to leave my job because of intense extreme physical and mental and emotional pains. I mean, I was I was doing actually on a weekly basis. I was freaking my managers out because it was happening in two places within one company I was working for in luxury retail. I used to work in luxury retail, and both on both in those places I started to feel people's energies. And when I'm talking about other people's energies, that means their whole being, the whole chakra system that they had complete. With all of their damaged self-concepts, all of their unresolved, deeply seated subconscious trauma residing in their chakra vortexes and spreading out through their auras. And if I can tell you the physical and the mental disturbance and the physical pain that each day I had to, I subjected myself to go through, because nobody told me to work your socks off and live in misery. And while I was I didn't even know what was going on at that time. I just knew that I started to lose control over every bit of my emotional, mental, physical balance. And I was a big mess, and everybody knew that because it was out completely. And even though I didn't know back at that time what is going on with me, I was intuitively guided through this process, and I started to receive symbols and significant signs and all those things that started to guide me towards understanding what is going on with me, and and I and I started to grasp on things, and because I didn't know how to handle this information, when people knowing nothing about these things, just experiencing me on the surface level and judging me on that outside profile and character that I was playing out on a default mode and sense. When I started to grasp on these things, and they asked me all kinds of questions: are you okay, how can I help you? And when I started to understand little by little on things, and I not knowingly that you should not really talk about it, I started to share, and I started to freak these people out even more as a result. And then it drawn a negative attention on me. It drawn all performance dropped. I wasn't myself. It created me other issues within the working environment, and that is actually resulted me on the top of that. The company went bankrupt and had to rebirth itself with a completely new structure and marketing and all kinds of things. But before it could do it, I had to face the close down of branches, and one of the branches that was closing down, it was mine, and I had to choose whether I leave that company altogether or make some adjustments, and I joined to a different team. And when I joined to a different team, I actually come across a real narcissist, undiagnosed, but it was really happening. Now I was already in my spiritual awakening process, and the purging was enhanced by this person, because it was actually even confirmed later, because people get to know each other by working together, right? You get to know your workmates, even your managers, and you get to know things about them. And it came out that this person was with the astrological sun sign Gemini, and my father was Gemini as well, and my father was actually narcissist. Or extremely traumatized narcissistic individual. Still, it was a subtle trauma for me to be in my family environment, because abuse was normal in this family environment. It was also having gypsy bloodlines especially from my father's family line and family ancestry. This was absolutely normal, accepted, more than tradition. to say it in the nicest way possible. And because when you're born into an abusive, extremely abusive family scenario that is not physically abusive but emotionally and psychologically extremely abusive, so much so that it's actually more painful, and because of the subtleness of it, because there is no communication about it, because there is no approve of it, because there is no justice over that. That is harder, I would say, to even realize or come to conclusion that yes, I was abused since birth. I mean, since my early childhood, right? I was surrounded by an alcoholic father who wasn't diagnosed alcoholic, and nobody was talking about it that he was alcoholic, but alcohol was a best friend. And in a in it was a way of self-soothing in the family tradition, and the way of celebration. Whenever that the family was celebrating, there were drinks all over the place. Whenever the family was sad, there were drinks all over the place. So no matter what is the occasion, alcohol was always there. Not in the literal alcoholic way of describing it, so it wasn't physical abuse, but was everything else. It's still not shrinking the abuse that I was subjected to and what I was subjecting myself to. Now I had to change my place of sitting. I hope it's not gonna rain now, but I'm trying not to be interrupted all of the time for the past 2 days. So yeah, alcohol. So I'm actually ending up talking about pretty much my whole story, my whole life story, and that is all right, that it's all fine. So because it closely relates to each other and very much makes, my guides also asked me, makes sense, because my guides also asked me to open up and to share my own background and story with you. And I'm really happy to do so, because apart from this story being my story and a huge boost and huge engine and machine to that led me to go through this huge awakening journey and process, it transformed me so much that I'm never going to be the same, and I'm really happy not to be. And I can now, because of knowing my soul purpose fully and embodying it, being able to embody it fully and completely, being of service to humanity is for me is the greatest gift that I could have ever given, because I never knew, I never truly knew what I'm supposed to do. Why am I here? Why is this so much suffering is happening? Why is this so much um, war and struggle, poverty, um, unsatisfaction, misalignment, misery, daily, daily misery is happening in my life? I always asked this question. I kept asking these questions because I couldn't, no matter what I did, nothing was making a difference until that point, uh, when obviously this spiritual awakening uh, started back a decade ago, when I lost my father with his diagnosis with brain cancer, and I came to England from my home country, uh, literally escaping the recession back then, and that coming inflation spiral that I was blamed for again, because I wasn't able to get any jobs back then after I finished with my school and education, and I was blamed for that. But anyway, yeah, I think it's gonna rain. Rain. Da la 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 la. Rain. Madonna, Rain song. And the other one just came before that. The SWV used to be the band, that beautiful band, one of my favorites back in the days. They have a similar song called Rain, something about rain. These songs came into my mind. Anyway, hopefully it's not going to rain. I'm still I'm still hopeful that it's not gonna rain, and I can keep talk to you until I finish. So I escaped from my home country, from Hungary to England, and started from the very bottom, and I worked myself up to luxury retail. When I say that I started from the very bottom, I I started to work. I was this phrase is really known by everyone. I was scrubbing toilets and I was cleaning hotel and motor rooms. And I was working in a Turkish hotel in central London, and then I was placed all over the place. I was taking any job, all jobs that were available in hospitality or in cleaning, whatever. um, and I was working in restaurants. I was clumsy. I'm the worst imaginable waitress on this planet Earth, even today, because I'm not willing to be better than what I was. Like, like, never again. Being a waitress is a nightmare for me, to me. I was the worst of the worst. And I was so bad that I'm actually proud of it. I'm the pride. I'm the most pride of being the worst of the worst waitress of this planet. But anyway, I tried that. I really did my best. I really did. I really did. I was so happy when they told me, okay, this is the very last time I want to see you here. I was the happiest. I was so happy. I didn't even care that I just had that much money. I would maintain myself for a week. I didn't even care. I just went for a next job and the next job and the next job and the next job and the next job. Doesn't matter. And I was doing it for a while, and I worked myself up to be in luxury retail, and obviously that spiritual awakening kicked in. I mean, the Kundalini awakening kicked in, the spontaneous Kundalini rising kicked in, activation kicked in, and that made me absolutely unable to do any type of work that was linked to environments like office environments, boutique, whatever. Doesn't matter what it is, just basically working in a co-working space with people together for 8 hour shifts on a daily basis. I'm still unfit to work in such places because I'm a born psychic. I was born with my gifts, but I was unknown. Like, I didn't know that I had these gifts, and therefore I didn't use them, and I didn't even have any support system that would teach me or guide me or mentor me. I didn't even have any literature. Back at that time, the internet wasn't even there at that stage. Not even talk about like the spiritual awareness and the knowledge of sorts. When you go into the library, there you find spiritual knowledge at that time. So, anyways, typical 90s, early 2000, things like that. But going back to the topic, my story is that at that time when I truly started, like, I'm now my Kundalini is blowing like the fire is blowing up within me. Wow. It really did. And I had to say goodbye to the old ways of earning an income. And that meant that I had to occupy myself in other ways. Now, I had to go to ask for the support of others, my family. At that time, I already knew my ex-partner, and he actually helped me out of the situation. I even had to go on government support. And this is one of the biggest uh, biggest work that I'm here to do. This relates to my biggest mission and work that I'm here to do. I'm not going to talk more about it, but this had to happen for a very good reason. And even though it was really extremely disabling and humiliating and discouraging how it was, because even at some point um, I was diagnosed with different mental diseases and, of course, depression, that in healthcare these things are still not handled in the way that it should or best could be. And today, healthcare lacks all kinds of wisdom and all kinds of sources of knowledge. Um, what my guide's saying, referential knowledge and the proper data and information, even statistics that it should have at this day and age. And obviously I had to go through that turmoil and slightly and more than slightly traumatizing experiences. That was a complete identity crisis, and even more than just that. And throughout the cycles, and the reason why I didn't feel that lost or more lost that I was, because how I felt, the lost I was, it was enough to experience. But I was still having that safety net of having my ex-partner with me, because he was going through it too. We literally activated each other, and it was a spiral downwards. Not long after we actually got together. The honeymoon phase, pretty much after 3 to 6 months of knowing each other, completely vanished. this is this is a normal experience to have. And the community already knows about this. And going through that was extremely traumatizing and um, extremely destroying. I lost all of my self-esteem, any self-confidence that I ever had prior to that, any will, free, like mental, emotional, physical will to even go on in life. But we shared this devastation and complete defeat and crisis with each other. That was pretty much, even if it was toxic, almost entirely, because it was a constant mirroring, constant purging process to go through cyclically, but going deeper and deeper and deeper into subconscious traumatic blockages. This completely transformed me, my ex-partner, and all of our beliefs. Everything wiped out. Everything got wiped out. And now we are just doing the aftermath. I wanted children as well, and I truly believed that I found the one back at that time. Even though it wasn't perfect, there was really high highs and really low lows. It's always the same, right? But this was even different. This was even different than anything I ever been involved with anybody else, because this was included the Kundalini activation, the Kundalini rising. So that's why I but I was thinking like, yeah, he is the one. Doesn't matter how toxic is, just keep going, just keep working on yourselves, and everything is gonna be fine. After 2 years being together miserably, my guides had enough and they told me the truth. Originally, I didn't have to be with this person maximum more than 6 months. But I wasn't ready to give up on this relationship, because I was, whenever we had the highs, that was really high highs, that was exceptional highs, like the talking about the intimate parts of our connection, the bond that we had, I didn't have any experiences prior to that. That was beyond my craziest imaginations, that two bodies can play out such euphoric and extremely pleasurable things. Now I can't really find the words to describe this, but there are lots of words to describe this, and none of the words really able to describe this, because you can reach such highs during these experiences that there are, you lose the capacity of handling these energies and these experiences, and you lack the human structure as it is, and the limits of the human body, and the senses that we can actually express naturally. It 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 has its own limits unless you are tapped into your higher levels of your consciousness. So these experiences were way beyond the my or even my ex-partner's humanly ability to express. So you can imagine. But anyway, and then of course when my guides told me that this relationship reached its lowest and highest potentials as a karmic lesson, and I had to let it go, I wasn't ready to let it go. Though I started to purge and release, and I started to have the grief, even though I wasn't able to fully grieve the death of my father, the so far father figure I had in my life. And additionally, I purged all of my past relationships, all of the karmic ties, all of the negative karmic ties with other male individuals. I was constantly purging those as well. As well as in my dream state and the daydream state, right? Because it's all of just the layers of illusions that we are perceiving as reality. So, and it's many dimensions and many levels of existence and universes, multiverses, and parallel realities to it. So anyway, whilst I was purging all of those things and obviously my own stuff and my own behavior, habits, belief systems, and so on and so forth, I was deeply in grief of trying to digest. It took me actually 2 years to accept the fact that I'm not supposed to be with this person, and this person is indeed not the one. But I wasn't ready, nor he was ready to let me go. So we still kept going. Um, Without the romantic aspects of the relationship and the intimate aspects of the relationship, but that this relationship morphed into a kind of a deep trauma bond based friendship with benefits sometimes, you know, because there is a letting go process, there is a purging process. You cannot just go cold turkey when you feel that this is the man of your life and you're supposed to have children and you didn't have children and nothing happened, nothing came true that you put and fed into or dreamt into this connection. So a whole castle that I based on in the middle of the desert, based on sand, it I had to destroy it myself, and it was absolutely excruciatingly painful. It wasn't just emotionally painful and draining and exhausting, but it was emotionally and physically painful. So I also made a lot of diseases, cancerous diseases happen, processing and going through this grieving time frame. Was I able to do anything apart from being depressed and miserable and absolutely out of my humanly order and function? Of course not. So don't even dream about that, to have a career or keep going for your dreams. I was absolutely wrecked. So I went through my death at that moment. And I was still, the only thing that kept me in my spirit was serving communities that would go through the same things and do the karmic yoga part, feeding into others. And by feeding into others and supporting and helping others that are the same clueless with my experience, I could help them, support them, assist them, and at the same time trained myself to be able to become the teacher and the leader or the guide, the spiritual guide that I can indeed embody today. This was a mastering process for me, not just a dying process. I was mastering each and every inch, all parts of myself constantly, even though I was crumbling and vanishing each and every year, little or big by big, little by little. It didn't matter. The only thing that kept me alive in meaning in my spirit, because I never ever felt suicidal. This is really important to know about my story, that I never went that deep, I never sunk that deep that I felt to be suicidal, or that my life, I would look at my life and my life doesn't worth anything, so I might just uh, uh, what is that, drop it, or throw it away. That's what I was looking for, throw it away without uh, going through this whole thing and see what else is coming out of this. Because if this is happening, this is for a really good reason. That has to be God made reason, a divine reason. So why I would even entertain anything such suicide or stuff like that, if I haven't seen the out of the tunnel. And I was um, developing my relationship with my guides, and they guided me, and I started to even guide my ex-partner, but at that point he wasn't that much open, and he was still quite far from himself and closed off from his heart, that, and more in his mind, that he couldn't believe me, and that even worsened our relationship. So it never really got back to it never really got resurrected. He then went on the path, the awakening path of using herbal medicine, and that opened him up, and now he understands everything what I was going through, I was experiencing, and now he started to experience the same. But anyways, and that actually uh, started for him a miraculous healing of his heart space, and that made him understand everything that I was all about all all along. And anyway, this healed our relationship, actually. This healed our relationship, but it didn't recover it. Because something that was belonging to the south node, it's never about reconciliation in the means of redoing, reheating or making the pie warm again, warm up the pie. No, no, no. There is no pie, even. No need to warm up the pie, and there is no pie even, because it's been wiped out completely. The karmic pie wiped out completely from both of our systems, and now we can see with clarity, and now we can see with wisdom. And now, and throughout the years, whilst we were digesting the fact that we wasn't meant to be, we started to focus on our own self. That's when I originally started my full-blown self-love journey. So not just deteriorating my old self, but building back up, sprouting those seeds and nurturing those seeds that I was planting by the very destroying my old self with that process, the destroying and killing myself process. So this beautiful metamorphosis is now in its completion, and what is really important, I can be true about this and honest by this, we are both on the journey of celibacy, on the path of chosen intentional celibacy. So this is already at the point, like more than 3 years at this point. And even though we chose to, because of the pandemic, we we decided, and we of course we are not fit to work in means of normal societal systems and setups. um, we we are dedicated, we've dedicated our time and life pretty much to serve our communities that we are feeding into since then, and building our businesses and having our businesses. So it means a lot of things, different things, because we are talking about multiply source of income at this point. I mean streams of income, and being of this global being through this global pandemic at the same time, and worsening the situations for pretty much everyone who is under the cap of humanity, whether they are working in offices or working as entrepreneurs. These are extremely transformational times, and at this point, at this present point of my journey personally, I am in the very end of saying goodbye to all of this that I was talking about so far. Everything I ever experienced, any of this trauma, any of these negative, karmic, bad, low vibrational belief systems, habits, patterns, anything and everything. He is again, because at that time, almost this time, almost 4 years ago, but at that time it was absolutely devastating for me. Even I was also had to go through this crying and emotional purging phase, but I was crying so much even prior that, because it took me, again, I didn't break up with him until the point that I was able to even say it out loud. So it took me 2 years. I was crying my eyes out. I was crying day and night and between. It was one of the hardest things that I ever gone through. I gone through so many hard things, but that was one of the hardest things to swallow and face, because I gave everything. I gave everything and beyond. I gave everything, my blood, my tears, my bones, my body, my all of my efforts, all of my love I ever could feel. So that was absolutely devastating and destroying to me. That despite of all of my efforts and all of what I had to give, it didn't work out. That's usually the type of experience that people go through when they feed into a decade long, or even 2 decades or 3 decades or 4 decades long of marriages and relationships. That's absolutely devastating when you realize that that wasn't even the thing. That's really sad. But anyway, now, because I was grieving so much and for so long, I was grieving over 5 years. I was grieving most of the time of this relationship. I was grieving this relationship almost from the very beginning. So I have no tears left, but I can see, because it's really soon, I leave this country for good. I really do leave this country for good, forever. I'm traveling to another, and I go and settle my life in a completely different place, and I'm just preparing everything. Now I need to be really practical and precise and intentional with everything. I can't really be too much emotional about this. I gave myself enough time to process this, so now I'm called to rather face, to rest, rejuvenate, take care of myself, love myself as much as possible, and uh, regain my spirit and my strength, my mental strength, my emotional strength, my physical strength even, and my spiritual strength, big time. Because what is going to happen again, all over again to me, is another start all over again from scratch. And this is really hard to face, especially when you are more than mature enough to have children, to have family, to have settled down, to have your successful business going on, to have everything going on for you, A to Z. But unfortunately, uh, this is not how it is right this moment, and I'm just about to step into another person's uh, presence and life, identity, character, and dreams and lifestyle. So what I can see on him, that he's crying every single day. I can see, but he doesn't really want to show it. He's not pulling in. He's not pulling me into his grieving process, because he knows very well that I have enough things to face by my own strength and by myself, as soon as I have to start all over from scratch, as well as for him, obviously. So um, I can proudly say that I have gone through all of the healing, most of the healing that I ever had to complete in this life, in this lifetime. And I'm very much ready to be the guide and the healer that I'm called to be, for others, for many others that cannot wait to have me as their support system. Because I'm not just anymore being the healer who needs to heal and go through their own hits, but I truly feel that this time around I can embody that person and that being who can truly be of service and truly can guide and truly can support others and be there for others in a completely different way how I ever been do it prior to this. So even if it's even though my intense experiences on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, even now, I'm still having absolutely incredible dreams and actively astro projecting big time. And I'm doing my dream realm or other realmly service to the divine as well, as per my guides told me so, and many of you do it too, and therefore this extended time frame for you to truly be with you and give all the love that you can to yourself, feed into you, nurture yourself, and bring clarity to all aspects of your life, because now you really truly need it. You are on the verge of rising like a beautiful phoenix bird, with all of its powers, with all of its renewed self, identity, energy, aura, being, and with that blessed divinity from within to without. I'm aware of the fact that as soon as I move out and leave this place behind, at that moment I'm going to break down all over again, just to release everything that I cannot release just yet, because now I need to stay clear and focused on what I'm doing, because each and every minute and second counts right now. If you're going through anything of sorts, divorce, separation, anything that is a life altering, transformative change right now, just follow your gut and feel. Go by your feelings. Never ignore yourself ever again, even for a second. Pay attention, please pay attention. I know it's hard. I'm in there. We are not alone. You're not doing this alone. You are not alone in this. I've been called just the other day that my godmother is dying. She's in the hospital for over a month now. She's pretty much just waiting for me to say goodbye to her. Death is happening. You need to stay in your power, no matter what. No matter what. Financial situation, financial situational problems, anything. Nobody, now pretty much globally, humanity is walking in the exact same shoes. And now we truly have the chance and the opportunity to be compassionate with ourselves and with everyone else involved, and to be loving with one another, most importantly with yourself. Not love is the answer and not love is the key, but unconditional love is the key. The unconditional love that you firstly feel towards you and only yourself. And this unconditional love that is expressed to oneself spreads everywhere outwards. And that's how you express love to others. There is no other healthy way of expressing love. Everything else is just a myth, an illusion that you need to drop. Better earlier than later, especially this time. So take this opportunity from the divine that it's given to you. Doesn't matter, regardless of your situation. I don't care what is your individual situation. With the most heartfelt love and compassion expressed to you. I'm not saying that I don't care because I don't care. I say that no situation is that bad that you forget to take care of yourself and you forget to express true unconditional love towards yourself, and that spreads out to others. That's the only way you can share love with others. That's the only way that you can show love to others. The wind is a confirmation. This is the only healthy way of expressing love. There is no other way. Even if you are even if you feel like or triggered to argue or disagree with me, I send you all of the love that I have to you, because you going to understand whenever it's time for you to understand and overstand what I'm truly talking about right now. I had to do a ton of things and experience a ton, and I had to go through hell and heaven to truly understand what I'm talking about right now. So if you understand this, if you are also in the same situation, I'm really happy for you. Well done for you. Good job. And anybody else, just keep going. Just keep focusing on this thing. Unconditional love towards oneself, and that is automatically, by default, is going to spread outwards and spread everywhere and towards everybody. Okay? I'm going now because I need to drink, I need to eat, I'm hungry, I'm like a little baby now. So I need to take care of myself, and I'm doing it, that I'm doing exactly that. I'm so grateful for the fact that you shared this time with me. You listened, and um, you are receiving my story as it is, as it happened, and thank you so much for your time, your energy that you shared and expressed with me during this video, because you have to expel energy, you have to direct energy towards this content if you are listening. So I'm grateful for that. um, I'm letting you go now, and let's see what's going to come next. See you. Take care.